Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordy and Glory video. In today's episode we shall be casting our ever critical eye over the Imperial Guard datasheets. This time taking a look at what is quite possibly the sexiest tank in the entire game. I am, of course, talking about the Macarius Heavy Tank. Named after the greatest Lord Solar in Imperial history, the Macarius is an absolute beast. It is festooned with weapon systems and it is clad in thick armor plates. However, for all of its aesthetic appeal, we must ask and answer one simple question. Is the Macarius any good in 10th edition, or is it a relic of the past that should remain on your shelf? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's mount up, roll out, and dive right into today's episode. As is tradition, we will begin with a brief overview of what the hell the Macarius actually is. The first thing to mention is that it is a Forge World tank. So if you're trying to find this in your Imperial Guard Index data cards, unfortunately, you won't find it there. It is in the Forge World Index that is on Warhammer Community. Now, in terms of its battlefield role, the Macarius is a heavy tank, and it sits somewhere in between the Leman Russ and the Baneblade. Interestingly, you could say that the Rogel Dawn has somewhat muscled in on its territory, but the big difference between the Dawn and the Macarius is the Macarius is still considered to be a super heavy. Now, it's not quite as super heavy as a Baneblade, but it is still a heavier tank than the Rogel Dawn. And this is very much reflected in its datasheet. And we'll start off by going over that main stat line. The Macarius has a movement value of 9 inches. This is the same as the other super heavies, such as the Baneblade, Shadow Sword, and so on. It's also toughness 13. Again, a big differentiating factor between it and the Dawn, which is only toughness 12. It does have a 2+ save, but so do most guard tanks these days. But then we get to the wounds. It's only, and only is very much a relative term here, it only has 20. Now 20 wounds are still very good. Don't get me wrong, it's very chunky. But as far as super heavies go, that is pretty light. It's 4 less wounds than another guard super heavy, such as the Baneblade that we keep comparing to, which we're going to because it is a super heavy at the end of the day. But it is 2 more wounds than a Rogel Dawn, but it's also less wounds than you'll find on things like Imperial Knights as well. So it is a light super heavy, and I know that's a little bit of a paradox. It's also got Leadership 7, which is what you would expect from pretty much every guard unit at this point, and it is objective control of 8, which is a big deal because objective control 8 again puts it firmly in that super heavy camp. So it's got the movement, it's got the toughness, it's got the save, it's got the OC. The only thing that really, from a defensive durability point of view, that makes this come across as more of a lighter super heavy is the fact that it does have 4 less wounds. But with all of that covered, let us move on to the weapons and war gear. And being a big tank, you would expect the Macarius to come with a lot of firepower. As standard, the Macarius tank comes equipped with 2 heavy stubbers, a Macarius twin battle cannon, and a twin heavy stubber as well. Now you can swap out the 2 sponsored heavy stubbers with either 2 heavy bolters or 2 heavy flamers, and then you could also give it a hunter killer missile, and you can strap on an extra heavy stubber or storm bolter if you want. But honestly, here is where the cracks do begin to appear. Because heavy stubbers are cool and they're all fun and games, and everyone loves saying, get on that 50 as they're rolling their stubber dice. But they're not a great weapon. They're supplementary firepower. And when essentially your vehicle is coming with, sure, like 5 of them, if you count the twin heavy stubber as 2, coming with 5 stubbers, and sure, potentially that's a lot of Daka, it's like 30 shots with an 18-inch range. That's okay. Yeah, okay. There's no punch to those shots. And whilst it's okay for a squad of guardsmen or two to blaze away with inaccurate lasgun fire, when you're looking at a super heavy, when you're looking at a tank, what you're looking for is not supplemental firepower. What you're looking for is big boom boom. That's what you want. And the stubbers, I think, whilst very cool, do let the Macarius down. It would be brilliant if we could swap all of those stubbers out for things like autocannons. Do what the Malcador can do and really get some punch added onto that platform. But as it is, the best extra firepower you can put on this thing is the 2 heavy bolters. And, well, 2 heavy bolters aren't really much to write home about. It almost feels like the Macarius, especially in terms of its extra guns it can take, it feels as good as a Lehman Russ. It maybe not even quite as good, because the Russ can go for multi-melters, plasma cannons, and mass cannons. Yes, the stubbers and stuff, they do feel very rule of cool, but they do feel like they're holding the tank back a little bit in the damage output department. But hey, at the end of the day, all of this is just the spare guns, just the extra bits, right? What we're really here for is the main armament, and that is, in this case, the Macarius Twin Battle Cannon. And it's okay. It's an alright weapon, but it's basically just a regular ass Lehman Russ battle cannon with twin linked. So that means it does have blast, it is twin linked, so it's got those 4 rerolls to wound. It is 48-inch range, d6 plus 3 shots, hitting on 4s, strength 10, AP -1, and damage 3. Damage 3 is great. Flat damage 3, really, really powerful, and I think that the battle cannon overall is a decent weapon. And it's one that I'm more than happy to equip my Lehman Russes with. But again, the Lehman Russ is a much smaller tank than the Macarius. Lehman Russ is smaller, it's cheaper, it's more spammable. It's not the centerpiece of my army. I'm unlikely to turn up with more than 1 or 2, or really 1 Macarius in my army. It's like turning up with a Baneblade, right? In a normal hybrid army, you're looking at maybe, like 1. There's a bit of a centerpiece, a bit of a showpiece. I'm unlikely to be spamming Macarius's, and so the battle cannon doesn't really have the same cheap spammability. It's not as viable here. It's interesting. It's about the platform that the battle cannon's on. If you put it on a Russ, it's okay, because if the Russ dies, there's 2 more there to keep it going. But if you put the battle cannon on Macarius, it's not enough gun for a tank of that size, frankly. And sadly, things do not really improve when we get to the abilities, because the Macarius has battlefield control. Each time this model makes a ranged attack, if it is within range of an objective marker you control, reroll a hit roll of 1. I mean, that's okay. It's a fine ability, but there are a couple of problems with it. Firstly, it requires your Macarius to stay in range of an objective. Now, if that's a home field objective, typically you're going to want to just hide a unit out of line of sight just to sit on that and just score you the points there. Also, if it's a home objective, typically it's not going to have the firing angles to the mid board where you really want your fire support to be. So you're really going to park a super heavy just to hold an objective. It just doesn't seem like the best use of it. Also seems like a bit of a trap. That's something that newer players might actually do because they're trying to just make use and leverage their abilities without realizing it's actually hindering them. Or you start rolling this thing into the middle of the board and it's like, okay, I'll roll it forward, but the mid board is a bit of a brawl, and if I move my tank into one of those objectives, it could get countercharged, it could get attacked by some pretty gnarly close combat anti-tank. I'm putting it in harm's way. Now, there's nothing wrong with putting tanks in harm's way. We want to make sure that they're firing and engaging in fights, but there's a difference. What you want is your infantry to be in front of your tank and they're pushing onto the objectives, and your tank is in the firing lane, it is in the firefight, but it's behind. So your opponent feels forced to deal with the infantry on the objective whilst your tanks blast them back. That's the difference. Whereas what we're saying here with the Macarius is in order for you to use your battlefield control ability, you need to essentially have this thing leading the charge. And whilst that might look very, very cool, having a tank leading an armored spearhead forward, it's tactically not the sound move to make in most situations. And so when you put all of this together, what you have is a tank that is reasonably durable. It is a tough old beast with that T13, but that only has the firepower of a Lehman Russ with a fairly useless ability and unfortunately quite a hefty price tag. You see, at the point of recording, this tank costs 310 points. You can actually get 2 Lehman Russes for that cost now. Sure, the vouchers, they're not that good, but you can get 2 Lehman Russes for that. You can get a lot for 310 points in the Guard, and it feels like the Macarius has been left behind a little bit with the recent points changes to Guard as per the September 2023 balanced data slate. A lot of things came down, but it seems like the Forge World team didn't get the memo, and so a lot of those vehicles units stayed the same. Now, obviously, in the future, if this tank gets a pretty significant points cut, it might become a bit more viable. But the elephant in the room, the thing that's sort of just coming in and just, frankly, just slapping the Macarius down to the floor is the fact that it costs 310 and a Rogel Dawn only costs 260. And the Rogel Dawn is a phenomenally durable vehicle. That ablative plating is brilliant. The fact that you could get a Rogel Dawn and a Tech-Boost Engine to give it a 4+ save, and therefore it's going to be more durable than the Macarius because 4+ invulnerable saves really just, they're very good. When they go off, they go off. Anyone who's used one will tell you. Ask custodians players, 4+ invulnerable saves, when they just start rolling, when you're hot on them, you feel invulnerable, right? So you can get a tank which is more durable, or at least matches the durability of the Macarius, but has just infinitely more firepower. The Oppressor Cannon and with coaxial autocannon just puts the Macarius Twin Battle Cannon to shame. The Oppressor Cannon has better strength, it has better AP, has better range, and it comes with the autocannon as well. The Oppressor Cannon is true anti-tank. The Macarius Twin Battle Cannon is just a bit lackluster. And then you've also got the fact that all of the extra guns that the Dawn comes with more than beats what the Macarius gets with its stubber spam. The Rogel Dawn gets 3 stubbers to the Macarius's 4, with one of them being a twin. Okay, so it basically matches it on stubber firepower, but then you have the ability to bring, I don't know, 2 multi-melters as well, which is great. And then you've also got the Pulverizer Cannon or Castigator Gatling Cannon as well on the front, which is either more DACA than the Macarius with all of its stubber spam or heavy bolters, or you go for the Pulverizer Cannon and you do the big boom boom thing. Again, even better. At that point, you're just rubbing salt in the wound because you don't even need the Pulverizer Cannon to beat the Macarius' boom boom. And you've got the Oppressor Cannon on the Dawn. And so, unfortunately, I feel like the Rogel Dawn sort of strolled into the break room and gone, "Your time is over, old man," and it's just like punched the Macarius across the room. Sadly, and it does genuinely break my heart to say this because the Macarius is my favorite tank in the Guard. From a competitive point of view, there is no justification for taking a Macarius. It doesn't have the firepower, and you can get the Dawn for significantly cheaper. Macarius is, I would say, one of those units that you can put it in your army list when you're playing against friends at the battle bunker at home. And at the end of the day, it is a very big tank and it is still pretty beefy. So it won't hold you back, but it's definitely not going to supplement your forces. You're not actively nerfing yourself by taking one, but you are definitely not giving yourself the best possible chance. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are you a fan of the Macarius? Have you been able to get it to work? Or do you think that it is all style and no substance? I also just want to mention that I appreciate there's the Macarius Vanquisher variant and also the Macarius Vulcan, but these ones are pretty different to the regular Macarius, so we're going to be covering those in a separate video. If you want to make sure you don't miss that video, please make sure to subscribe to never miss an episode, and if you enjoyed today's video, smash that like button. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty. So a massive thank you to Bon Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, August Vardy, and the Tommies. Thank you guys, your incredible support makes a huge difference, and it is a big part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.